Yo, did this dirty man just walk in here like he owns the place?
The cashier said it loud. Chin up, lips curled.
Order or get out.
A cortado, please.
The first one barked a laugh.
A cortado? You don't even know what that is. Get your black coffee and go sit on the curb where you belong.
Tiff, look at him. Dude crawled out of a trash can.
Bet that card's stolen.
6 people in line. Not one opened their mouth. The man paid cash, sat down, bit into banana bread, and froze mid-bite. Not because of what they said. He'd heard worse his whole life just for existing in rooms like this. He froze because of what they said next, when they thought nobody was listening. Harold Coleman built iron brew coffee with his hands. Not a metaphor, his actual hands. 23 years ago, he welded a steel cart together in his mother's garage in Englewood, Denver. The kind of neighborhood where coffee shops didn't exist because nobody thought the people there deserved one. He was 29, broke, and stubborn enough to believe that a black man with a cart and a dream could build something that lasted. He did. One cart became a storefront. One storefront became 5. 5 became 40. Iron Brew Coffee now stretched across Colorado, Utah, and New Mexico, a specialty chain known for its seasonal menu, its hand-roasted beans, and the motto printed on every cup: everyone deserves a seat. Harold wrote that line himself, the year he opened his first real store. He was thinking about his mother, how she used to take him to a cafe downtown when he was a boy, and how the waitress always seated them by the kitchen door, never by the window. He promised himself, if he ever built something, everyone would get the window seat. Now he sat in a corner office on the 14th floor of a glass building in downtown Denver. The photo of the original cart hung on the wall behind his desk, faded, the wood still stained with espresso. He hadn't touched an espresso machine in 3 years, hadn't walked into one of his own stores as anything other than a name on a letterhead. He didn't need to. The numbers were good. Revenue up 11%. New locations in Albuquerque and Salt Lake City. The board was happy. The investors were happy. Then his assistant Lisa walked in on a Tuesday morning and dropped a folder on his desk. "You need to read these," she said. "Today." Inside, 31 printed glass door reviews for the Denver flagship. His original store, the first real location, the one he'd built with his own money before any investor said yes. The reviews were from the last 6 months. Harold read the first 3 and his stomach dropped. The cashiers looked at me like I was trespassing in my own city. I'm a 58-year-old woman. The girl at the register spoke to me like I was a stray dog. I will never go back. Hostile, humiliating. I left my coffee on the table and walked out. Didn't even want it anymore. He kept reading. 31 reviews. 22 mentioned the same thing. Not the coffee, not the prices, not the food. The staff. The way certain customers were treated differently than others. Words repeated across the reviews like a drumbeat. Unwelcome. Ignored. Disrespected. Embarrassed. Harold pulled up the internal dashboard on his screen. The flagship store's customer satisfaction score. Dead last. Out of 40 locations. The store he built first was now the worst. He picked up the phone and called the flagship store manager, a guy named Craig. Been there 2 years, decent enough on paper. "Craig, I'm looking at the glass door numbers for your store. Walk me through what's going on." Craig's voice was calm, practiced. "Mr. Coleman, with all due respect, people leave bad reviews when they don't get free refills. It's noise. My team is solid. We're hitting our sales targets. Your customer sat score is dead last. Sir, satisfaction surveys are subjective. We can't control how people feel." Harold paused. He recognized that tone. Smooth, deflective, the voice of someone who'd rehearsed the answer before the question was asked. "I hear you, Craig," Harold said. "Appreciate your time." He hung up, stared at the phone for a long time. That night, Harold drove to the flagship store alone, parked across the street, engine off. It was 9:15, closing time. Through the glass, he could see two young women behind the counter. One was wiping down the espresso machine. The other was on her phone, leaning against the register. A customer walked in, a man in work boots and a paint-stained shirt. Harold watched. The cashier on her phone didn't look up, didn't greet him. The man stood at the counter for nearly a full minute before anyone acknowledged he existed. Harold gripped the steering wheel. 40 locations, thousands of employees, and the one store that was supposed to represent everything he believed in, the original, the first, the flagship, was rotting from the inside. He pulled out his phone and opened the employee schedule for the flagship. 14 names. 2 kept appearing on every high-traffic shift, Tiffany Grant and Jenna Moore. A third name caught his eye, Emma Sullivan. She was only scheduled for 5 a.m. openings and 10 p.m. closings, the dead zones, every single week. Harold stared at that name, then he started the car. Something was very wrong inside his own house, and he was going to find out what. The next morning, Harold Coleman did something he hadn't done in 3 years. He got dressed like a nobody. Worn jacket from the back of his closet. Old baseball cap. No watch. He left the Omega on the bathroom counter. No car service. He took the bus. Rode it 14 stops to Colfax Avenue and walked 2 blocks to the Denver flagship of Iron Brew Coffee, the store he'd built with money he borrowed from his mother's retirement fund, the store where he'd poured the first cup himself and handed it to a stranger for free. He pushed the door open. The bell above it chimed. Nobody looked up. Tiffany Grant was behind the register, phone in one hand, the other resting flat on the counter like she was guarding it. Jenna Moore stood at the espresso machine, scrolling through something on her screen, a towel draped over her shoulder she clearly hadn't used. Harold stepped to the counter, stood there. 5 seconds, 10, 15. A young white couple walked in behind him. Tiffany's head snapped up instantly, bright smile. "Hey guys, welcome to Iron Brew. What can I get started for you?" She took their order, around Harold, like he was a pillar, like he was furniture. He waited. The couple got their drinks. They sat down. Tiffany went back to her phone. Harold cleared his throat. "Excuse me, I'd like to order." Tiffany looked up. Her eyes traveled from his cap to his jacket to his shoes. Slow, deliberate. The way someone scans something they've already decided to throw away. "What do you want?" Not a question, a verdict. "A cortado, please, and a slice of banana bread." Tiffany tilted her head. "A cortado." She turned to Jenna. "He wants a cortado." Jenna snorted without looking up. Tiffany turned back to him, speaking slowly, the way adults speak to children who aren't theirs. "Sir, do you know what a cortado is? Or do you just want a regular black coffee? Keep it simple." Harold felt the heat climb his neck. He kept his voice level. "I know what a cortado is. I'd like one, please." Tiffany shrugged, punched it in. Didn't ask his name, just scribbled BC on the cup. He didn't ask what it stood for. He already knew. He paid cash. Tiffany took the bills with 2 fingers like she was pulling a receipt from a wet floor. Dropped his change on the counter instead of his hand. 3 coins rolled. He picked them up one by one. He took his cup and the banana bread to a corner table, sat down. The cortado was lukewarm. The banana bread was good. Actually, it was excellent. The best thing on the menu, and he hadn't even known it existed. He took a bite. And that's when he heard it. Jenna leaned across the register toward Tiffany. She didn't lower her voice, didn't even glance in his direction, as if he wasn't worth the effort of discretion. "Yo, did you see him count those coins off the counter? That was painful." Tiffany laughed. "I don't know why people like that come in here. This isn't a shelter. Go to McDonald's." "He's just gonna sit there all day, watch. Take up a table, buy 1 coffee, never tip. They never do." At least he didn't bring his whole family. Last week that one woman brought 3 kids. 3! And let them run around like animals. I told Craig if we don't start filtering, this place is gonna look like a bus station. Jenna nodded. For real, we need to protect the vibe. Some people just don't fit the brand, you know? Harold set the banana bread down. His hand was steady, but his jaw was locked. He stared at the table. A coffee ring stained the wood. Probably been there for weeks. Nobody had wiped it. He pulled out his phone, opened the Notes app, typed one word. Rot. Then he sat there for another 45 minutes. Watched. Listened. Saw Tiffany greet every young, well-dressed white customer with a smile and a, "Hey, babe." Saw her hand a middle-aged black man his drink without a word or eye contact. Saw Jenna turn away from an elderly woman to take a selfie. He finished his cortado, left the cup on the table, walked out. Nobody said goodbye. Nobody said thank you. Nobody even noticed he left. Harold stood on the sidewalk outside his own store. The store with his motto on every cup. Everyone deserves a seat. He pulled out his phone and called his VP of operations. "Ray, clear my schedule for next week, all of it." "Harold, you've got the investor lunch on Thursday." "All of it, Ray. I'm going back in, not as corporate, not as the founder, as nobody. And I need you to make sure not a single person in that building knows." That night, Harold didn't sleep. He sat in his apartment, a 2-bedroom in Capitol Hill, modest for a man who owned 40 stores, and replayed every second. The eye roll, the 2-finger bill grab, the coins dropped on the counter, BC on the cup, the word filtering, the laughter that wasn't meant to be funny, it was meant to be a wall. He'd spent 52 years on the other side of walls like that. He thought he'd built a company that didn't have them. He was wrong. At 6 in the morning, he called Ray. "I need a cover. New hire, transfer trainee from the Springs location. Name in the system, Henry Williams. Can you build that?" Ray exhaled. "Harold, I can have legal and HR handle this in 48 hours. We pull the tapes, fire the 2 cashiers, done." "If I fire 2 cashiers, I fix 1 store. I want to know if the whole house is sick, Ray." Silence. "How long?" 4 days. "And if someone recognizes you?" Harold almost laughed. "I just spent an hour in my own store. The woman behind the register looked me in the eye and told me to sit on the curb. Trust me, nobody in that building has ever looked at the About page." He spent the next 2 hours preparing. Trimmed his beard shorter. Uneven the way a man looks when he doesn't own a mirror he likes. Went to Goodwill and bought a gray polo, dark jeans, scuffed work shoes. Then he printed the employee handbook and read all 40 pages for the first time in 2 years. What he found made him sit down. The customer experience protocol was detailed, specific. Greeting standards, service timelines, complaint resolution, all written out. But there was no enforcement mechanism, no audits, no anonymous reporting channel. The entire protocol relied on one assumption, that people would follow it because it was right. Harold closed the handbook. He thought about his mother, how she used to say, "Good intentions don't survive bad management." She was always right. He pulled up the flagship shift schedule. Tiffany Grant and Jenna Moore were on every peak shift, Tuesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., the golden hours. Emma Sullivan was scheduled for 5 a.m. to 8 a.m., then 9 p.m. to close. Every single week, for 4 months straight. The earliest mornings and the latest nights. No peak hours, no visibility, no tips worth counting. 4 months of dead zone shifts. That wasn't bad luck. That was a pattern. Harold put on the gray polo, laced the scuffed shoes. The man in the bathroom mirror didn't look like the CEO of a 40-store chain. He looked like exactly the kind of person Tiffany Grant would tell to sit on the curb. Good. He drove to the flagship and parked in the alley. The employee entrance was a narrow metal door, paint chipping, no camera. The difference between the Instagram-perfect storefront and this neglected back door told him everything about where this company's attention had gone. The break room smelled like stale coffee and microwave popcorn. A corkboard cluttered with shift notices. And on a shelf in the corner between a stack of napkins and a bottle of sanitizer, a ceramic tip jar, hand-painted. Sunflowers on one side, the Iron Brew logo on the other, done carefully with love. Nearly empty. And taped to the front, a sticky note in bubbly handwriting. All tips go through Tiffany. See her before adding to jar. Harold photographed the note, photographed the jar, set it back down gently. Then he clocked in as Henry Williams and walked onto the floor. Day 1, morning shift. Harold was assigned to shadow the opening crew. The shift lead was Emma Sullivan, 28, Latina. Hair pulled back tight, apron already stained by 5:15 a.m. She moved behind the counter the way musicians move on stage. No wasted motion, every step deliberate. Pulled shots, steamed milk, restocked cups, wiped the bar in a continuous loop that never broke. To her, he was Henry, the new transfer who didn't know where the lids were. "Lids are under the second sink, not the first," she said without looking up. "First sink is sanitizer. Mix those up, you'll taste bleach in your espresso for a week." At 6:40 a.m., an elderly black man walked in. Tall, slow-moving, wool coat too heavy for the season. Emma's face softened. "Walter, oat milk cortado, extra warm?" Walter smiled like she'd handed him something he'd lost. "You remember. Every day for 3 years. Sit down, I'll bring it over." She brought it to his table with both hands. Walter looked up. "Emma, you're the only reason I still come here." Emma smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. She went back to work. Harold waited for a gap between customers. "How long have you been here?" 4 years. "You like it?" Long pause. Her hands kept moving, wiping, sorting. She didn't look at him. "I like the coffee." That pause told Harold more than any glass door review. Day 1, afternoon. At 10 a.m., the shift changed. Tiffany and Jenna walked in. The air in the store tightened like someone turned a dial. Emma went quiet, moved to the back without being told, started restocking shelves that didn't need it. Tiffany didn't greet her, just, "Did you pre-stock the oat milk? I'm not doing it again." "It's done." "It better be." Then, like flipping a switch, Tiffany became a different person. A young white couple walked in. She lit up. "Hey guys, have you tried the autumn maple cortado? Literally the best thing we've ever made." Harold blinked. The autumn maple cortado, Iron Brew's #3 seller last quarter. He didn't know who created it. A middle-aged woman in a cleaning uniform approached next. Tiffany's smile vanished. Flat voice. "What do you want?" Made the drink without a word. Set it down. No name, no have a nice day. Harold opened the register drawer to get change. Inside, wedged between the receipt paper and the bill tray, a folded index card. 2 columns, one with hearts, one with X's. Day 2, the index card. Harold waited until Tiffany went on break, pulled the card out. Hearts. Tech guy Jake, always tips $5. Instagram girl at Molly Brew, tags us, free extra shot. Blonde couple, good vibe. X's. Old guy Walter just sits, nurses 1 drink. Lady with 3 kids, messy, don't encourage. Flannel man, doesn't fit. Flannel man. That was him. The day he walked in as a customer. They'd written him down, put an X next to his existence. On the back, in Tiffany's handwriting, "If they're not brand fit, slow service, they'll leave on their own. Don't make a scene, just make it clear they're not welcome." Harold put the card back exactly where he found it. Hands steady, jaw not. This wasn't 2 young women having a bad day. This was a system. Day 2, break room. Harold sat with Emma during the afternoon break. She pulled out a small notebook and started flipping through it. Pages of recipes, seasonal drinks, pastry twists, flavor notes in the margins. "Needs more cinnamon. Try with brown sugar syrup." She stopped on a page. The autumn maple cortado. You created this? She nodded. Gave it to Ron last fall. He said he'd submit it through regional. And? Went on the menu. Sold like crazy. Your name on it? No. Ron listed it as his initiative. She turned more pages. Summerberry cold brew, holiday spice latte, banana pecan bread. All hers. All credited to Ron. I stopped writing my name on them. She closed the notebook. What's the point? Harold typed under the table, Emma Sullivan, 4 recipes confirmed. 0 credit, 0 raise. Day 3. Ron Hadley visits. Harold smelled him before he saw him. Cologne. Sharp, expensive, too much. Employees stiffened. Conversations stopped. Ron Hadley, regional manager. 48, tall, tan, perfect haircut. He walked in like he owned the store. Ironic, considering the actual owner was standing 3 feet away in a gray polo. Ron high-fived Tiffany. Hey, superstar. Place looks great. Walked past Emma without a glance. She was restocking cups 6 feet away. Invisible. Ron spotted Harold. You're new? Just stick with Tiffany. She's the heartbeat of this store. Emma was right there. Her hands didn't stop moving. She didn't flinch. She'd heard it before. Harold pushed. What about the seasonal menu? Whose idea was the maple cortado? Ron grinned, wide, proud. That was mine. Regional initiative, Q3 last year. Harold nodded, slowly, didn't blink. Emma's hands paused. 1 second. A cup tilted. She caught it, kept going. Day 3. The tip situation. End of day. Harold offered to count tips. Tiffany shut it down. I handle tips. Store policy says equal split, right? Policy is policy. Real life is real life. People up front earn the tips. Emma's support staff. She gets support staff share. Harold checked the POS when Tiffany stepped away. Tiffany and Jenna, 80%. Emma and 2 others, 20%. Same hours. 1/5 of the money. He photographed the screen. Day 4. Patricia. A woman walked in around 2 p.m. Black, mid-50s, hospital lanyard, still in scrubs. Ordered a vanilla latte and a muffin. Tiffany served her the way she served everyone without hearts next to their name. Dead eyes, flat voice, wrong name on the cup. Her name was Patricia. The cup said, Pat. Excuse me, my name is Patricia, not Pat. Tiffany didn't look up. Same thing. Patricia took her coffee, sat down, took 1 sip, stood up and walked out. Harold followed her. She was on the bench outside, cup in her hands, staring at it. He sat beside her. Are you okay? She looked at him, eyes tired, not from one bad experience, but from a lifetime of them. I just wanted a cup of coffee in a nice place. That's all. Harold's chest tightened. You deserve that. Patricia almost smiled. Didn't get there. She threw the cup away and walked off. Harold sat on that bench a long time, then texted Ray. It's worse than I thought. 1 more day, then legal, HR, and the conference room. Friday morning. Every employee present. Ray replied in 4 seconds. What are you going to do? My job. Day 5, Thursday, before dawn. Harold arrived at the flagship at 4:30 a.m. The store didn't open until 5:30. He had 1 hour alone with the back office. He used his corporate login, masked through the IT system as a routine audit check. Ray had set it up the night before. No fingerprints, no alerts, just access. He sat in the cramped manager's office, a windowless room behind the break room, barely big enough for a desk, a filing cabinet, and a printer that looked like it hadn't been serviced since the store opened. The chair squeaked when he sat down. The desk smelled like old coffee and dust. He started with the tip distribution records, 12 months. Every weekly payout logged digitally through the POS system. Harold pulled the numbers into a spreadsheet on his phone and ran the math. Tiffany and Jenna's combined weekly tips averaged $410. Across all 40 Iron Brew locations, the average two-person front-of-house tip split was $95, 4 times higher. Not twice, not a little more, 4 times. Emma Sullivan's tip share had decreased every month for 9 consecutive months, from $62 per week down to $11. The same period Tiffany had been on staff. Harold screenshotted every page. Next, Ron Hadley's quarterly innovation reports. Harold pulled them from the regional shared drive. 4 regional menu initiatives submitted over the past 14 months, each one credited to Ron as the originator. Autumn Maple Cortado, submitted October last year. Summerberry Cold Brew, submitted June. Holiday Spice Latte, submitted December. Banana Pecan Bread, submitted March this year. Harold opened the photographs he'd taken of Emma's notebook, page by page, date by date. Autumn Maple Cortado, Emma's notebook entry, August, 2 months before Ron's submission. Summerberry Cold Brew, Emma's entry, April, 2 months before Ron. Holiday Spice Latte, October, 2 months before Ron. Banana Pecan Bread, January, 2 months before Ron. Every single recipe, created by Emma, submitted by Ron. The same gap every time, 2 months. Just long enough to look like independent development, just short enough to ride her creativity in real time. Harold sat back in the chair. It squeaked again. He stared at the screen. 4 ideas, 4 bestsellers, all hers, all stolen. He opened the employee complaint log next, the flagship store's internal HR file. 3 formal complaints filed by Emma Sullivan over the past 18 months. Complaint number 1, schedule fairness. Emma requested rotation into peak hour shifts. Status, reviewed, no adjustment needed. Current scheduling reflects operational needs. Signed, Ron Hadley. Complaint number 2, tip distribution. Emma reported unequal tip allocation and requested a transparent audit. Status, reviewed. Tip policy is at store-level discretion. No action required. Signed, Ron Hadley. Complaint number 3, credit for menu contributions. Emma requested formal recognition for the Autumn Maple Cortado and 3 other recipes she originated. Status, reviewed. Menu development is a regional function. Individual contributions are noted internally. No further action. Signed, Ron Hadley. 3 complaints, 3 dismissals, same signature, same dead end. Harold opened one final file, Tiffany Grant's employee record. He scrolled past the hire date, the W-4, the direct deposit info, stopped at the emergency contact field. Emergency contact, Ron Hadley. Relationship, uncle. Harold exhaled. Slow, controlled. The way a man breathes when the last piece of something ugly clicks into place. Uncle. Tiffany was Ron's niece. Ron shielded Tiffany. Tiffany ran the floor. Jenna followed Tiffany. Emma filed complaints, and Ron buried them. Ron stole Emma's recipes, and Emma had no one above Ron to report to. A closed loop, a machine built to protect itself. Harold closed the laptop, stood up, walked to the break room. The ceramic tip jar was still on the shelf. Sunflowers, the Iron Brew logo painted with care. He picked it up, turned it over. On the bottom, in small handwriting, faded but legible, for the team, E.S. Emma Sullivan. She'd painted this jar herself. For the team. And the team she'd made it for had emptied it, shelved it, and put a sticky note on it that said, "All tips go through the person who was stealing them." Harold set the jar back down. Gently, like it was evidence. Because it was. He pulled out his phone, called Ray. "Legal and HR, are they confirmed for tomorrow?" "Confirmed. Conference room's booked. Every flagship employee will be there at 8 a.m. One more thing. I want the big screen set up. I'm going to show them something. What are you going to show them? The truth. Harold hung up. He stood in the break room, alone, surrounded by bags of coffee beans and the faint smell of bleach. He looked at the tip jar one more time. The sunflowers, the careful brush strokes, the initials on the bottom. Then he turned off the light and walked out. Tomorrow, he was going back through the front door. Friday morning, 8 a.m. The flagship was closed to customers. Every employee was in the conference room, a windowless space behind the store floor. 14 plastic chairs in rows, fluorescent lights buzzing, the faint hum of the espresso machine bleeding through the wall. Tiffany sat in the second row, phone in hand, annoyed at the mandatory meeting. Jenna next to her, chewing gum, whispering something that made Tiffany smirk. Ron Hadley sat in the front row, legs crossed, arms spread across the chair beside him, the posture of a man who believed he was the most important person in any room. His cologne filled the space before anyone's voice could. Emma Sullivan sat in the back row, hands folded, shoulders forward. She didn't know why she'd been asked to attend. She expected nothing, because nothing was what this company had given her for 4 years. At 8:02, the door opened. Harold Coleman walked in. Not in a suit. He was wearing the same worn jacket, same baseball cap, same scuffed shoes from 4 days behind the counter. He walked to the front of the room. No notes, no laptop, just him. Tiffany squinted. Something flickered behind her eyes. Recognition trying to climb through disbelief. Jenna tilted her head. Her gums stopped moving. Harold let the silence hold. 5 seconds. 7. Then he spoke. 4 days ago, I walked into this store and ordered a cortado and a slice of banana bread. The 2 cashiers behind the counter looked at me, a black man in a worn jacket, and decided I didn't belong. One of them told me to get my black coffee and go sit on the curb where I belong. Tiffany's smile froze, suspended between performance and panic. The other one said I crawled out of a trash can, said my card was probably stolen. The room was silent, not the comfortable kind. My name is Harold Coleman. I founded this company. I built this store. I welded the first coffee cart in my mother's garage 23 years ago. Tiffany's face drained, all at once, like someone pulled a plug. Color left her cheeks, her lips, her ears. Jenna's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Ron uncrossed his legs. Harold pulled the index card from his jacket pocket and held it up. This was inside the register drawer. Hearts and X's. Hearts for brand fit customers. X's for people you decided weren't. He read from it. Old guy Walter, just sits. Lady with 3 kids, messy. Flannel man, doesn't fit. He set it on the table. Flannel man was me. You put an X next to the man who built everything you're standing in. A sharp inhale from the back row. 2 employees in the middle exchanged a look that said, I knew something was wrong. Harold turned to the screen behind him. The POS tip data, projected large enough to read from every seat. Tip distribution, 12 months. Tiffany Grant and Jenna Moore, 80% of all pooled tips. Emma Sullivan and 2 back-of-house employees, 20%. Same hours, a fifth of the money. Next slide. Ron's quarterly reports on the left. Emma's notebook photographs on the right. Dates circled in red. 4 recipes. Autumn maple cortado, summerberry cold brew, holiday spice latte, banana pecan bread. Everyone created by Emma Sullivan. Everyone submitted by Ron Hadley as his own. Emma's notebook dates predate Ron's reports by 2 months, every time. Ron's jaw tightened. His hand gripped his knee. He opened his mouth. I can explain. I'm not finished. Harold's voice hadn't risen. It had dropped, and that was worse. Final slide. 3 complaint records, all filed by Emma, all marked resolved, no action required, all signed by the same name. 3 complaints, schedule fairness, tip distribution, recipe credit, all filed by Emma, all dismissed by Ron Hadley. Harold looked at Ron. The same Ron Hadley listed as Tiffany Grant's emergency contact. Relationship. Uncle. Ron's face didn't drain like Tiffany's. It hardened. Eyes darting left, calculating, not confessing. A man running out of exits and checking for windows. Harold turned to Emma. She was in the back row where she always sat, where they'd put her. Back of the room, back of the schedule, back of the line. Her hands were still folded, but her back was straight. Her eyes were wide, not with shock, but with something older. The look of someone watching a thing they'd stopped believing would ever happen. Emma, you created the autumn maple cortado. Harold's voice shifted, steel softened by 1 degree. You created the summer berry cold brew, the holiday spice latte, the banana pecan bread, the same bread I was eating when your colleagues told me I didn't belong in this store. Silence. Total. I owe you an apology, not for what they did, for not being here to see it, for being 14 floors up while this was happening 14 feet from the counter. That's on me. Emma pressed her lips together. Her eyes were bright, not spilling, not performing, just bright. She nodded, once, slow. Not agreement, acknowledgement. It said, I knew what I was worth. I was waiting for someone else to see it. Tiffany stared at the table. Jenna hadn't moved. Ron was looking at the wall. Harold straightened up. His voice returned to steel. Now, let me tell you what happens next. Harold didn't raise his voice for what came next. He didn't need to. Every person in that room was already holding their breath. He picked up 3 folders from the table beside him. Plain manila, no labels on the outside. He prepared them the night before, one for each person whose name was about to change meaning in this company. He opened the first folder and set it in front of Tiffany Grant. Tiffany, you're terminated, effective immediately, not for being rude to a customer, though that alone would be enough. You're terminated for maintaining a documented system of discriminatory customer profiling. He tapped the index card on the table. For manipulating the tip pool to divert 80% of shared gratuities to yourself and 1 other employee. And for creating a hostile work environment for your colleagues, specifically the colleagues who didn't look like you, didn't talk like you, and didn't fit the brand you decided to build inside a company that was never yours to reshape. Tiffany didn't look up. Her fingers were locked together on the table, knuckles white. Her lips moved slightly, but nothing came out. The girl who always had something to say had nothing left. Harold set the second folder in front of Jenna Moore. Jenna, same terms. Terminated for participation in the same system. You co-maintained the profiling list. You participated in the tip manipulation, and you stood behind that counter and called a paying customer, me, a thief to his face because of the color of his skin. Jenna's eyes were red. Her chin trembled. She reached for the folder but didn't open it. Just held it like she didn't know what else to do with her hands. Harold didn't linger. He turned to Ron Hadley. Ron was sitting perfectly still. His jaw was set. His eyes were fixed on a point above Harold's head. The posture of a man who decided that if he didn't look directly at the fire, it wasn't really burning. Harold set the third folder down. Didn't slide it. Placed it. Ron, you're terminated for falsifying intellectual property claims. 4 original recipes created by Emma Sullivan, submitted under your name in quarterly reports to corporate. You're terminated for suppressing 3 formal employee complaints. Complaints that came to your desk and died there because the person they were filed against was your niece. Harold paused. Let that word sit. And you're terminated for building a system of protection around an employee who was actively discriminating against customers in a store that was founded on the principle that everyone deserves a seat. Ron's nostrils flared. His hand twitched on his knee. For a moment, Harold thought he might speak, might try to explain, deflect, minimize the way he'd minimized everything Emma had ever brought to his desk. But Ron looked around the room. Every pair of eyes was on him. The employees he'd charmed, high-fived, joked with, they were all watching. And not one of them looked away. Ron picked up the folder, stood up, walked out without a word. The door clicked shut behind him. His cologne lingered for another 30 seconds. Then that was gone too. Harold turned to the remaining employees. 11 people. Some of them had worked at this store for years. Some of them had seen what was happening and said nothing. Some of them hadn't seen it because they weren't allowed to, because the system was designed to keep it invisible to anyone who wasn't paying close attention. What happened in this store wasn't just about 3 people, Harold said. It was about a system that let them operate. A system I built, or didn't build well enough. That changes today. He clicked to a new screen. 4 bullet points. Simple. Clear. Effective immediately across all 40 Iron Brew locations. 1. Transparent digital tip pooling. Every employee sees every dollar in real time. No one person controls the distribution. The system calculates equal splits automatically based on hours worked. If you work the hours, you earn the tips. Period. 2. Recipe and innovation credit. Any employee who contributes a menu item gets their name on it. On the menu board, on the app, on the marketing materials. You'll receive a royalty percentage on sales for the first 12 months and priority consideration for promotion. Your ideas are yours. Nobody takes them. 3. An independent reporting channel. Complaints no longer go through your regional manager. They go to a third-party HR firm that reports directly to me. Not to Craig, not to the next Ron, to me. If your voice was buried before, I'm giving it a direct line to the top. 4. Quarterly undercover audits. Every 90 days, someone from this company, me, Ray, a VP, someone you won't recognize, will walk into a store as a customer. No announcement, no warning. And we'll see what you see. We'll feel what your customers feel. If the experience matches our values, great. If it doesn't, we'll know. And we'll act. Harold let the screen sit. Let them read it again. Then he turned to Emma. She was still in the back row. Still straight-backed. Still quiet. But something had shifted. The smallest change, like a window cracked open after years of being sealed shut. Her chin was a half-inch higher than it had been 10 minutes ago. Emma. Harold's voice changed again. The same shift the room had felt during the reveal, steel giving way to something warmer underneath. I'm offering you the position of Regional Innovation Lead. You'll oversee seasonal menu development for all 40 stores. Your recipes will carry your name, retroactively. Your salary will reflect your contribution, backdated to the date of your first recipe submission. He slid a folder across the table. Different from the other 3, thicker, heavier. Emma stood up, walked to the front. She didn't rush. Every step was deliberate, the same way she moved behind the counter. No wasted motion, no performance. She opened the folder. Inside, the formal offer letter. A back pay check for 18 months of stolen tips, calculated to the cent. And a new name badge. Emma Sullivan, Regional Innovation Lead. She ran her thumb across the badge. Slow. The way you touch something you've imagined 1,000 times but never believed you'd hold. Her lips pressed together. Her eyes were bright. Not spilling, not performing, just bright. The kind of brightness that comes from being seen after years of being deliberately hidden. She looked at Harold, didn't speak. Then she closed the folder, held it against her chest, and turned to the room. Thank you, she said. 2 words. Quiet, steady. Not grateful in the way people are when they receive a gift. Grateful in the way people are when something stolen is finally returned. Nobody clapped. Nobody needed to. The silence in that room said more than applause ever could. Emma turned and walked to the break room. She came back 30 seconds later carrying the ceramic tip jar. Sunflowers faded. the Iron Brew logo painted with care, the initials ES still visible on the bottom. She walked past the conference room, through the door, onto the store floor, and set the jar on the counter next to the register, right where customers could see it. Then she peeled off the sticky note, "All tips go through Tiffany," and dropped it in the trash. She looked at the empty store, chairs stacked, lights on, the espresso machine humming softly. She straightened her apron and waited for the doors to open. 3 months later, the Denver flagship of Iron Brew Coffee didn't look different from the outside. Same brick facade, same glass front, same logo above the door. But inside, everything had changed. The first thing customers saw was a chalkboard by the entrance, hand-lettered, updated weekly in Emma Sullivan's handwriting. "This season's menu, created by our team." 4 recipes, each one with a name next to it. Not a corporate code, a person. Autumn Maple Cortado, Emma Sullivan, Denver Flagship. Winter Cinnamon Cold Brew, Maria Torres, Salt Lake City. Spring Honey Lavender Latte, Deshaun Williams, Albuquerque. Summer Peach Iced Tea, Emma Sullivan, Denver Flagship. 2 of the 4 were Emma's. Nobody had to steal them anymore. They came from a woman with a notebook and a talent that 4 years of silence couldn't kill. The team behind the counter was different. Harold hadn't gutted the staff. He'd removed the rot and let the rest grow. 3 new hires filled the gaps. Emma had a say in every hiring decision. Her only requirement: they have to actually like people. All people, not just the ones who look good on Instagram. One of those new hires was Patricia Davis, the woman from the bench. The nurse who'd walked in 3 months ago, been called Pat by a cashier who couldn't be bothered, and left without finishing her coffee. Harold had tracked her down through the customer feedback form she'd filled out, the one nobody had answered. He called her personally, told her what had changed, then asked a question she didn't expect. "Would you ever want to work here?" Patricia had laughed, the kind that sits on the edge of crying. "You're serious? You told me all you wanted was a nice place where nobody looked at you like you didn't deserve to be there. I want to build that place, and I think you'd be better at it than anyone I could find on a job board." Patricia started the following Monday. She worked the front register, the position Tiffany had guarded like a throne. She greeted every customer the way Emma taught her. Eye contact, full name on the cup, drink handed over with both hands. Walter came back. He'd stopped coming after Tiffany started slow servicing him, making him wait, ignoring his order, hoping he'd leave. He'd told Emma once that maybe he should find another place. Then one Tuesday morning, 6:45 a.m., same as always, Walter walked through the door. Wool coat, slow steps. He stood at the counter and just looked around like he was checking if it was safe. A new barista looked up and smiled. "Oat milk cortado? Extra warm?" "Walter, right?" Walter stared. "How do you know my name?" "Emma told us about our VIPs. You're at the top of the list." Walter laughed, short, surprised, the sound of a man who'd forgotten what it felt like to be expected somewhere. He sat at his window table, the one Tiffany's index card said he didn't deserve. When he left, he put a $5 bill in the ceramic tip jar. Emma had repainted the sunflowers the week after the meeting. The jar sat front and center, exactly where she'd placed it. Walter tapped the rim twice, the way you knock on a door you're glad is open. "See you tomorrow, Emma." "See you tomorrow, Walter." Harold visited the flagship once a month now, always through the front door. Always as a customer first. On one visit, he noticed something new on the wall beside the chalkboard. A framed black and white photograph. A young man in his 20s standing beside a steel coffee cart in a garage, grinning like he'd just built something that mattered. Below it, a small plaque. "Everyone deserves a seat. Harold Coleman, founder." He asked Emma about it. "Who put that up?" She shrugged. The same shrug she'd given him 100 times, but lighter now. "The team. They thought customers should know where this place came from." Harold ordered a banana bread. sat at the same corner table where he'd frozen mid-bite 3 months ago. Patricia handed him his cortado with both hands. Walter was at the window table. Emma was in the back. He could smell cardamom from here. He bit into the banana bread. This time, he finished it. The Denver flagship closed at 9 p.m. on a Friday. The same day of the week, Harold had walked into that conference room and changed everything. The store was quiet now, chairs stacked on tables. The espresso machine cooling down, ticking softly the way engines do after a long drive. The last customer had left 20 minutes ago, a college kid who'd stayed past closing to finish a paper. Emma let her stay. Didn't rush her, just wiped down the tables around her and said, "Take your time. We're not going anywhere." The chalkboard by the entrance still read, "This season's menu, created by our team." The framed photograph of Harold's original cart hung beside it. The plaque underneath caught the last of the overhead light. "Everyone deserves a seat." On the counter, the ceramic tip jar sat in its place. Sunflowers bright, freshly painted, full. Not with spare change, with bills, 5s and 10s folded and tucked in by customers who knew the people behind this counter by name. Emma locked the register, untied her apron, hung it on the hook in the break room. The same hook where her name badge used to dangle with the wrong title. The new badge was pinned to the apron now. Emma Sullivan, Regional Innovation Lead. She ran her finger across it the way she had the first time. Still real. She turned off the lights, walked to the front door, paused. The store was dark except for the glow of the street outside. Through the glass, she could see the bench where Patricia had sat 3 months ago, holding a coffee she didn't want, wondering why a nice place couldn't just be nice to her. Patricia would open the store tomorrow morning. Walter would be there by 6:45. The cortado would be ready before he sat down. Emma locked the door, dropped the keys in her bag, walked home. If you've ever walked into a place and been treated like you didn't belong, even though you had every right to be there, your story matters. Drop it in the comments. And if you want to see what happens the next time a boss goes undercover, hit subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.
Same table, same banana bread, but this time Harold finished it. Emma spent 4 years creating recipes worth millions and never saw her name on one. She filed 3 complaints. Everyone dined on the desk of men stealing from her, but they didn't break her. They took her money, buried her name, packed her to the dead ships, and she still showed up at 5 a.m., still painted sunflowers on a tip chair for a team that didn't deserve it, because they only had power over her schedule, never over her worth. And the moment someone finally actually looked, the whole system fell apart in the morning. You can bury the truth, you can't kill it. So let me ask you, and really sit with this. When's the last time someone decided who you were before you even opened your mouth? And the harder question, have you ever been the 6 people in that line who saw everything and said nothing? Drop your story in the comments. If this hit you, leave a like so more people see it. Subscribe. Next time, a boss finds a hidden camera where no one expected. Everyone deserves a seat. Don't be the one taking it away.